Assalamualaikum and a very good morning, everyone. Welcome to Razak School of Government second webinar in 2021, our 15th installment in total. Today's webinar is called What 2020 Taught Me. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items and the structure of our webinar session today. To those who follow this webinar through Zoom, please mute your microphones. We are also broadcasting this webinar live on our Facebook. This webinar session is divided into 3 segments. First, we will begin with key questions posed to our guest speaker. Then, we will answer questions from participants. At any time during the webinar, you may submit your questions to the guest speaker. Just type your questions in the chat and comment section. Please keep your question short and straightforward. As time allows, we will address as many questions as possible. Lastly, we will then wrap up today's webinar session. This webinar is recorded and you will be able to access this recording via our Facebook and YouTube page. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest speaker today, Dato Hamidah Naziadin. Is presently an independent non-executive director of Maxis Berhad and Nestle Malaysia Berhad. She also sits on the board of Majlis Sukan Negara Malaysia. Dato has more than 31 years of extensive strategic human resources and leadership experience in the financial services sectors across Malaysia and ASEAN. She was formerly the Group Chief People Officer of the CIMB Group, a position she held up to October 2020. During her tenure with CIMB Group, she led people strategies to attract, develop and retain talent, cultivated an agile workforce to prepare for the future of work, and enhanced the end-to-end employee experience via technology innovation. Her key achievements included strategizing the resource integration in successful mergers and acquisitions over the years within Malaysia and across ASEAN and the APEC regions, and implementing strategic HR programs that had earned peer and industry recognition through numerous awards. She was also the CEO of CIMB Foundation from May 2016 to October 2020, and member of the Board of Commissioner, PT Bank CIMB Niaga Indonesia from 2010 to September 2014. She holds a Bachelor of Laws from the University of Wolverhampton and a certificate in Personnel Management, Malaysian Institute of Personnel Management. She is active in mentoring and coaching young talent and women at various formal and informal settings. Dato Hamidah was the guest speaker at RSOG Leadership in Action series, Women of the Future in 2018. And she was also guest panelist at RSOG Senior Leadership Program, Leadership Presence in 2019. We have shared 3 key questions to Dato Hamidah, of which she will took all the 3 questions in one go. The first question read, what were your highlights in 2020? The second question is, what has 2020 taught you? And the third question, how should we approach 2021? Dato Hamidah, let us get started.
Thank you so much, Johari. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yes, thanks for the reminder. This is going to be my 3rd time speaking at your event, right? So 2018, 2019. So there was a gap in 2020 and then now we're back in 2021. But you know what? You have just chosen a very memorable day for me, a very historic day, in fact, I would say, because today is my first speaking engagement on the day Joe Biden was sworn in as President of the United States. So did you really, purposely select this date? Well done. Okay, so yes, there were 3 questions that you have posed to me and asked me to take me through for today's sharing. So the very first one is about the highlights, my highlights for 2020. And as what you have mentioned a few, and when you were sharing about my bio, about me leaving my former position in 2020. Can I go to my first slide, please? So sorry, please bear with me. I have asked Johari's office to help me handle the slides. Okay, so 2020 was really a very important year for me because I literally left an institution that I helped to build after close to 30 years. Now it was not an easy decision and wasn't a decision that you made overnight, because 30 years being in an organization that you helped to build, trust me, it wasn't just a job. It was my home, almost my life there. I spent a good part of my life there. But why? Why did I do that, right? Why wait, right? Why wait for 6 months? Why wait when you're only given 6 months? And I was also assessing that. I said, I have a bucket list to do, lots of stuff that I wanted to do. And I also, as guided by the book From Reaching from Success to Significance, I want to contribute differently. So when I had that opportunity to serve Nestle board, I was on Maxis board earlier, and when the opportunity came to serve on Nestle board, I changed gears. And that was when I told myself, maybe this is an opportunity for me to start to contribute significantly. And also is a chance for me then to also reevaluate my priorities and be able to do and spend time with people that matters to me and make full use of, the next stage, the next level in this stage of my life. And to top it off, 2020, I'm sure you all know what I'm going to talk about, which is the next slide, please. This was such an awakening year for everyone, right? A mother of all crises. I had earlier on in March 2020, in my Instagram, I posted this. At that time when things were so negative, I think the people can't see the slide, Arif. I think you need to press again. Yeah, thanks. Okay. I mean, look, we didn't expect all that, isn't it, right? There were cases of businesses were suffering already. The daily wage earners were facing a lot of difficulty. People can't pay rent. There is loan moratorium offered to help and lots of things, the way we work has changed. We have to work from home and all that. It was such a humbling time. Because if you look at it, today we can be very successful. We can be very powerful, very rich and all that. But all you need is just one tiny organism to smite us just like that. Our time on earth is just further confirms, whoever we are, whatever we are, or our time on earth is just temporary and anyone's fortunes can just change just like that. And it was really a lesson about humility. Yeah. So thus, all things considered, 2020, as what Johari mentioned, October 2020 was the last when I said goodbye to CIMB, all that I've done. And I'm setting out to do a lot of things, as I said, to do things differently. Hopefully I can be more significant and hopefully I will be able to, I don't want to wait until so-called 6 months, all right? Now, whilst we are in the midst of a crisis, it also got me to do a lot of reflection that this won't be the last crisis, right? It's a big crisis, right? But this won't be the last. And during my 30 years of career journey, I have seen, some I've experienced, some I've seen before my eyes. And yes, crisis can be painful. But guess what? In every crisis, there are always lessons to be learned. And I'm going to the second part of your question, Johari, about what 2020 has taught me. But what I will want to then pause here to talk about what 2020 has taught me, and it's not just about this pandemic alone, but I think it is also important for us to actually just go back, rewind a little bit in terms of the past crisis, because I feel that in everything that we go through, there are actually learnings from it that we can actually, there are takeaways that we can learn and which will be useful for us. So the first crisis that I had experienced was about the time when I first started work. So for those of you who are as young as me, okay, do share your experiences too if you will experience this crisis. The collapse of Pan L, where the stock exchange came to a standstill, and there was also recession. Okay, and for the younger ones, you may, if you have not started work at the time, you have not come across this. Hopefully, I'll be able to actually shed some relevance here. Now, I was a young executive in a bank, and there was such high unemployment rate. There were a lot of graduates out there who could not get a job. And then we got a directive that we should help out in this unemployment to start employing graduates, and their starting pay was even as low as $500. And that was what that was one of the tasks that one of the things I was tasked to do at that time. I was so scared. I said, oh dear me, it's so tough for the graduates. They could have, very outstanding achievement, but yet it was so difficult to get a job. But graduates who are not choosy have a higher chance of securing a job. And when I say here not choosy, if they are not choosy about their type of work, they are not choosy about their salary, they come in, they take it as a learning opportunity, give their best, deliver value. And that was how one can actually, the efforts will actually one day pay off. And so I will always remember this, because I told myself, I'm going to work really, really hard and make sure I deliver value so that, I don't go through this, because it is actually very painful. But as I said, as long as you're not choosy, and I wasn't choosy when I first started out, okay, you could end up just doing a lot of menial tasks and all that, but everything that you do, it is something that you can actually learn, you can do your best, and as I said, something will actually pay off. And now, moving on to another crisis. In 1995 and 2001, we saw the crisis of the downfall of two giants, Barings Bank and Enron Corp. This is all about fraud. And the learning here was actually very interesting. It was all about fraud. It was all about integrity. It was all about performance. It wasn't just about making money, all right? It was about, the HR world was actually tasked to make sure that the corporate values that we have, all right, whether we have it in our annual report, we have it plastered on our meeting rooms and all that stuff, it's not just words. It is values that everyone, the workforce, must embrace it, they must breathe it, they must live it. Otherwise, if you say, yes, we must have integrity and all that stuff, and if it's not lived, it is not practiced, then you may end up this way, all right? So Barings is thanks to Nick Gleason, and then of course Enron, a couple of others in there, okay? So here, I will always remember clearly how the HR community, the flavor was a lot about corporate values, a lot about culture, a lot about how we must make sure that all employees, the workforce, always embrace it. The value systems must be aligned. So when you recruit people with the right values that is aligned to your company values. And then, once your value system is aligned, then half the battle is won. So this was a very interesting again, crisis that I've seen, the downfall of these two giants. And then in between that was another crisis, and that was in 1997. If I can have the next slide. The Asian financial crisis, the currency speculation. I'm sure many will still remember this. The collapse of the Thai baht. And during this time, when I was working at that time, we were, we had to actually undertake a lot of cost-cutting measures. And at that time, the approach we had was, yes, during good times, we share the gain. But during bad times, we should also share the pain. So yes, pay freeze happens, pay cuts happen, forget about bonus, it was all withheld and all that, just to actually stay afloat. But we had the management who were out there to engage the people, to explain to them why, and that why we need to, everyone, we need to huddle together and just, we need to conserve whatever that we need, whatever we have. And when the times, during good times, when it comes back, then, as I said, we will share the gain when it's happier times. So this was the collapse of the Thai baht at that time. But the learning wasn't about all these cost-cutting measures. The learnings here that I want to actually share, can I have this next slide, was really something good came out from this, because the financial system was strengthened, and it was strengthened with long-term strategies. Malaysia developed the bond market. Over time we became a very mature, the largest bond markets. I would say the whole financial management was really, really strengthened. If I can go to the next slide, and you can see, all right, 20 years after. May I have this next slide, please? Thank you. And if you can see, 20 years after that, okay, we were progressing in the right direction. So the whole financial system was tightened, was strengthened using long-term strategies. And this was, as I said, something good that came out from a crisis. So you see, so when I reflected on a lot of crises, there's so much that we can all learn. And as long as, we learn from it and we improve on it, then that I would say would be that positive angle we can all look at when it comes to all this crisis or pandemic that's happening. And the other one is SARS. I wasn't sure whether I would like to share about this, because we didn't do that much. Yes, it seems to be a little bit similar to what we are having now, but a much, much, much smaller scale, and was kind of like contained in Hong Kong. Of course, it spread a little bit, So at that time, the only thing that we actually really did was just like to have imposed travel ban to all the countries that were in fact infected, and that's about it. It wasn't at this current scale, but we did have a similar crisis, come to think of it, right? Okay, so then now back to another financial crisis was in 2008, the subprime crisis. This was another major crisis. Again, so here we saw there was all these mortgages, the low quality mortgages, and then you have all these, loan structures. People were unable to pay. We saw the credit crunch and all that. And I still remember this was a time when we were having a discussion, and my CEO then was actually, we were brainstorming together, and we were saying that, yes, it's bad times now. The deals are dry, nothing happening. Okay, so what do we do? Okay. So we decided that this is a time that we turn problems into opportunities. Yes, we have the problem. I have a problem is that there's no work, but we have to pay our staff. Yet we want our staff, all right, because when things come back, when market recovers, we will still need our staff. We will still need our talents. So what can we do? So we cleverly came up with a very innovative staff program. We call it the Staff Rejuvenation Program. What we did was we kind of like encouraged them to take unpaid leave for about 6 months to a max of 12 months because we were already projecting a downturn that way. But what we assured them was, upon completion of the staff rejuvenation program, there will be no compromise with regards to job security. There will be no compromise with regards to promotions and growth opportunities for them. So basically, their job is intact when they finish finish this program. And guess what? It worked out very well because we turned that problem that we had into opportunities. So they went on unpaid leave for 6 months. So we saved money because we don't have to pay them. They needed a break, all right? And a break at the back of their mind, they had the peace of the mind that when you finish that, they will walk back in the job. The job is still there waiting for them. And until today, the staff regeneration program is now an all-time popular staff program because we allow now people to actually just take up to 6 months, okay? I mean, at the time when I left, this was a legacy that I left behind. So even if they want to take 2 months off, 3 months off, unpaid leave to solve anything, all right? So we have requests for some who wants to accompany their mother for operation. We have requests for some of them to want to just, oh, my maid is away, I just need some time to, to do the domestic work. Or it could be a case of I have to do renovation for the house, and it helped. I suppose it's also a way of actually addressing a little bit of a mental problem, right? Mental health problem in a way, but we gave them that break. So this was the subprime crisis. All right, another crisis that I want to actually share, where I know we have 9/11 and all that stuff, but I wanted to talk about was on the 15th of March on Christchurch shootings. Here, the learning here, I feel, is a lot about leadership, crisis leadership. It is easy to lead when things are stable, when things are hunky-dory, okay? But when you have a crisis, okay, leadership is so key, is so critical, all right? And this is a good example of how, because you have community crisis here, right? And it's a good example of how a leader who is able to navigate, who's able to manage this crisis, is able to actually unite people and bring people even closer together, and they had a purpose. They fought for a purpose, and so this is actually so strong, embracing diversity, irrespective of race, gender, whatever, everybody came together. This was a case where the crisis leader actually uses this crisis to unite people, to come together and see how we can actually improve things. So I feel that, this is something, and again, a learning that we should all consider, not even consider, I think it's a must-have during crisis, right? Leadership. Okay? And lastly, while it's not specific to any incident or anything, if I can have the next slide. So nowadays we are all talking about digital transformation and all that. It has to happen. It is definitely necessary. But along with it, we must get ready because there's lots of other crises that can come along with it, and it's going to get even more sophisticated, cyber attacks, all these other risks and all that. So what I'm trying to actually say here at the end of the day is that crises have happened. All right, in the past, it had happened, it's happening, it's still happening, and will continue to happen. But what is important is that we learn the lessons, okay? Which now brings me to the third question on how should we approach 2021. And Johari, if you don't mind, I think it is not just 2021, I think it is just about 2021 and beyond as well. Because as I said, crisis will continue to happen. And here I'm just talking about all this financial crisis, emergency crisis, global crisis, but there is also in life, personal crisis and all that we all go through, okay? So it will happen, all right? It's not an end to it. So stepping into 2021 and not just limiting to 2021 and beyond, I have put this in two parts. One is from the corporate perspective, and another one is a personal perspective. So corporate perspective, back to what I said about the Christchurch shooting, engaging leadership is so key. One, during a crisis, if you put people first, all right, that's what we want to do. That's what, that's how you can actually build a culture, as I said, of trust and care. Because today, the way we work is how many of you, I'm sure, are dialing in, listening to this from your home. That's what it is now, okay? And which also means that it is also a case, many of you who would have, not seeing your boss all the time, or even when you first started work, you don't even see your colleagues, you don't see your friends, you don't know, you don't know the organization. So at the end of the day, the employees have to trust the employer that they are being taken care of, their well-being is of importance to them, all right? And the employer, on the other hand, also needs to trust that the employee is also doing their part and all that, all right? So this culture of trust and care is so important. But whether you are in an executive position or whether you're at a board level, what we want to see every time when there is actually a crisis, put people first, all right? And that's why it's not just leadership, it's engaging leadership. It's how do you engage them, all right? How to engage to make sure that everyone, in the firm knows that, they are being taken care of, their safety, their well-being is a priority. Now, on the HR angle, I feel that, crisis gives us a chance to really, really assess our leadership. As we go on, sometimes, in HR, we would say, okay, we have to do succession planning. We must get ready. Our leaders, we put them through all this assessment, tests, all right, role play and all that stuff, case studies and all that. But, you have a live, real case study to put them through. So watch out for those, who are able to manage the crisis, empower them for those who can. And these are your leaders, these are the people who can lead, So by default, you have actually, if you really pay a little bit of attention to all this, okay, you do have actually, you can tick some boxes with regards to leadership assessment in terms of succession planning, right? And as I said, leadership, like what Jacinda Ardern for New Zealand has done, uniting people, all right? During a crisis, when we bring people together, because it's not about individual anymore, right? It is about the community, it is about the country, it is globally, all right? If we are able to unite people, okay, and all of us, have a purpose to fight for, that's how we can then, that's how you can engage people, all right? And that's how we can then together try and address and approach, and hopefully we can actually, I won't say solve the crisis, but at least we can actually help to address it. Okay, second one is the values, okay? Values, culture, sense of purpose, that unity, that clear direction. The clear direction followed clear communication, clear, aligned with the right actions, okay? Very important. Know what, have it there for them, know what the company stands for, what the employee must know what their company stands for, and for everyone so that they know they can live the values, okay? And when you recruit also for values. As I said, reminder here, case in point here is the Barings Bank, and as well as Enron, right? So recruit, make sure that the aligned system, the value system is aligned, and once you actually recruit for values, half the battle is actually won. And the other one is, I think, decision making is so important. All right, in a crisis, you need to redefine your business model, especially this year or last year. You saw how businesses, you actually have to change, right? The way you do your business, right? Things are no more the same. So, and I think speed is important, the way you do it. Time waits for no one, okay? So you need to flatten that, that vertical management structure. Sometimes you have so many layers, right? So many layers to get through, then only finally reach a head or reach a CEO, or so many committees or whatever to go through just for an approval or whatever. While of course, I'm not entirely saying no to all that. You need to have some form of that. But what I am talking about is the voice expression, all right, from the ground, because the people are down there on the ground, okay? They are very, very much in touch, okay? Whether it's with their customers and all that. Allow this customer feedback to flow up, allow product innovation to come up, allow market creativity to come up. Don't block them, okay? So I think this is something that we should actually work towards. Flatten that vertical management structure, let that voice flow up from the bottom. And this is when you have an engaging leadership together, you can then actually redefine what is right for you all and move on in that direction. And underlying all this, we have to keep learning. That's non-negotiable. Yes, when times are bad, the first thing they do is cut training costs, cut, whatever, team building and all that. Yes, I'm sure we need to do some trimmings. I'm not saying that we can't, but we can still get innovative and still make sure that that learning culture, that learning mindset is instilled in people. You must learn, all right? If we don't have a learning mindset and all that, and as you can see, last MCO was a clear-cut case. When we were thrown into it, we were all just working from home, all right? You do not know how to assemble your laptop or whatever. You just have to do it, Suddenly everybody becomes a little bit more tech savvy, okay? So this is definitely something we need to continue to invest in. And as I said, it's not just about dollars and cents investment. It's that learning mindset we need to instill. All right. As I say, to quote this John Kabat-Zinn, as I said, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. So it's the same thing. You can't stop any crisis and all that, but you can learn to surf. And when you learn to surf and you surf well, it can still take you places. And lastly, for HR, on the corporate perspective, I just have to have one point on HR. I think for HR, just back to basics, please. Just go back to basics, okay? Yes, there is technology. We leverage on technology to speed up our process, to do things, to improve and all that. But technology is not HR. Technology is only tools to enhance HR functions, The focus for HR must still continue to be on people, all right? So if I talk about technology, for example, yes, wow, all this talent assessment of talent management and all that, like what I mentioned just now, you have that 9-box grid and all that, and then you have your balanced scorecard, and then you will be negotiating, or discussing with your employee what the score should be. Should it be 3.6 or 3.7 or 3.8? So this whole performance management, for example, I just feel it's just engineered to death, over-engineered rather, okay? So I think we should actually just make some parts of it. We can just actually just make it simple, all right? We measure people on value that they deliver, okay? So a lot of HR, pillars that I feel that, people should be mindful. It is not, you should not confuse and thinking that technology is HR. Technology is not HR. It helps you. HR must continue to always focus on people. And on a personal perspective, I've mentioned this a few times and mentioned it right from the very start. And that's my very first posting on my Instagram when we were hit by this. Be humble. No matter how mighty we are. All right. I mean, we have seen before our eyes today, all right, how successful people, successful businesses, that's built over some time, right? It's just changed overnight. And just recently, I just want to share a story of this gentleman. Of course, I won't mention any names. When I left the firm, my ex-staff who is working somewhere else was sending me some nice farewell gifts. It was so nice of her, right? So the delivery guy came. And yeah, I got balloons, I got cakes and all that. And then one of the things that was there, he says, wait a moment, there's another thing for you. It's a pot of plant. I said, oh, a pot of plant? So I said, okay. So it's a beautiful pot of plant. And then I said, oh dear, I said, I'm not very good with all this, but I'm learning. I said, do you know whether this one is it for indoor or outdoor and all that? And he gave me a crash course on the plant, on how to take care of the plant. Then I was thinking to myself, wow, this delivery boy, not bad, right? He knows so much about plants, So I then asked him, I said, I'm impressed. How come you know so much about plants? He says, yeah. He says, then he told me he's actually the brother of, this ex-staff of mine. And he says that, I said, so are you in the plant business? He says, no, I lost my job. And I lost my job. So I told my sister, instead of her using Get a Grab driver or others, let me do all this for her, and of course, he treated that as a job like that, And today he works at like Lala Move and all that stuff. And I find, I learned so much, that he is not choosy. Back to what I said just now, right? And he's so humble, isn't it? That as long as you just do something, an honest job out there, and he was doing it to the best of his ability. He doesn't need to guide me about how to handle the plant, but he did. So I was very impressed. I was very touched. And this is this is what I mean when I say humbling, how humbling things have been. So I told him, pass me a CV. And I do hope one day, inshallah, I can actually help to maybe help him find something, because he has to still feed his family and all that. All right. So there you go on humility. Next one is keep reserves. Don't spend everything, don't use everything. Okay, no matter how tempting the urge is to spend or acquire, think thoroughly. What is the things that you really, really need to have? What is the must-have? What's the nice to have? Because you don't know. So this Malay saying, sediakan payung sebelum hujan, is very, very true. Okay, keep the reserves. All right. The next one is to be adaptable. Okay, I mentioned that already. Embrace change is all in the mindset. Okay, and technology, we must learn to unlearn, learn, relearn. Okay, upskill yourself. And I see a lot of organizations do actually have plans to upskill the people. But at the end of the day, one must want to do it. You must want to do it. So just to share with you all, I have also, since leaving CIMB, I have also signed up digital course because I really want to, and if I want to actually contribute significantly, even at board levels, I need to know what is the digital strategy and all that. So I'm actually starting to sign up and starting to study. I've just done the first module. I'm going to sit for my test soon. I have also done the, learning chess because I think it helps me with strategy, the thinking and all that. So at the end of the day, never too old to learn, but you must want to do it. And this is so important, the next one. Invest in health. Now, don't wait, okay? I waited and that was a wrong move, okay? So no matter how busy you are, please, health must always be a priority. So health, whether it is your exercise plan or whatever, or even your insurance plan, go ahead, okay? Do what you think you need to do, but remember, health is key. Health is wealth. Remember Eugene O'Kelly in their book, Chasing Daylight. Without health, so what? He was the CEO of KPMG, living life, in the fast lane, going to places, playing golf and all that stuff, right? Can't play anymore, right? Okay, so invest in your health now, don't wait. And lastly, the call for humanity, and everybody talks about it. I think this humbling year has shown us that we should have empathy. We should be empathetic. Sometimes we should just let go, gloss over things, okay? Be kind to each other. Let's see the goodness in people. Okay? And I'll end my presentation, my sharing here rather, with a quote, which I always use to uplift my spirits. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. On that note, thank you very much. And I'll hand over to Johari for the next part of the sharing.
Thank you very much, Dato Hamidah. You pointed correctly that today is a significant day. America have a new president, and yesterday was the first day the schools opened. So Razak School also opened and have the first class today. Okay, we have started to received questions from the participant, Dato. I will read to you the first question from Facebook, from Encik Anizam Mokhtar. He commended your sharing. He wanted to know, how do you see the value of humanity post-COVID-19 and uncertainties that could happen in the near future?
Okay, that's a very mind-provoking question. And if you ask me, humanity, there's no rocket science to it. Yeah. I mean, we are all human beings. Kita semua hamba Allah, right? So it's just do what I think your heart tells you to. All right. Help people when you can help. Don't sweat over small stuff. All right, with the family and all that. Okay. And say positive things, say good things, you know. I will always remember, you know, sometimes, you know, when you're angry and all that, and you say a lot of harsh words, and after that you can't take it back, right? So when you have nothing good to say, I suppose it's something that we shouldn't say, all right? By the end of the day, I would just say that we're all the same, okay? We are just on Earth here for a temporary mission. So there's no rocket science to humanity. It is common sense as to how we treat another human being. And I suppose a line to it would be, treat others how you want to be treated.
Dato, the second question comes from Encik Nur Shafiq Nazari. Yeah. He said that the movement control order put tremendous pressure on working parents, especially those who have small kids. So he wanted to know what was the experience at CIMB previously in tackling this issue. That's the first question. His second question is that he wants you to share your top 3 mentors and what principle had they taught you.
Oh, okay. All right. So if I can go back to the first question. Who is the first question? Sorry, just a reminder of the first question is about the kids and all that, right?
Right.
If you do you mind if you repeat, because just now was not very clear, the line.
Okay.
I just heard bits and parts of it.
MCO has put tremendous pressure on working parents, especially those who have small kids. Kindergartens are not allowed to operate, so parents have to juggle between works at home while attending to their kids. How does CIMB tackle this issue for its staff?
Okay, I think at the end of the day, what we did was when we had the MCO, at CIMB we were a service line and we were allowed to open. So what we did was we gave priority to parents with all these families, you know, or elderly parents that they have to take care, to stay at home, to work from home. And those who are not in this category are the ones, and we then actually allow them to actually go to work. We do help out in also, I mean, here again, it depends on how old are your kids and all that. Some of them may have online classes already, so they are busy as well in that sense. So it is how you cleverly then have a timetable, I suppose, to allow. So, like for example, when we have our or at least when I was running it, when having my sessions with my staff, I make it very, very clear. So I do know that, you know, classes starts at what time. So when we organize our meetings such that it does not clash, so that the parents have some time to attend to that, okay? Then after an hour or so, we have a short break for them, all right? So give them about like 15 minutes or 20 minutes just to get things done, you know, whether it is just very quickly go and check whether the kid is okay, didn't fall asleep, while studying and all that, So I think it is just simple as that. Because other than that, you have to stay at home, right? You can't go anywhere. So it's just to cleverly then align and the timing such that it gives that parent a little bit of breather. So like, for example, lunchtime is lunchtime. We make sure it's a must. We didn't have any Zoom meetings or whatever. Right? Otherwise, it's so tempting, right? It's just so tempting. No, it's just so tempting to just call for a Zoom meeting. I can just put a bowl of Maggie mee in front of me and still continue to talk, and give instructions and ask people to do. Right? Yes, I'm the board of Nestle, so must promote Maggie a bit. So anyway, but no. So when it comes to lunchtime, let's make it clear. So that's what we did. All right, we adjust the timing of all the Zoom meetings so that you give them a little bit of breather to manage that. And now, of course, you want to make sure that people don't go crazy staying at home doing the same old thing, right? So lots of other fun activities and all that stuff. So that was the only thing. Okay, then the next question is what? 3 mentors in my life, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I have more than 3, but okay. So it's very tough to decide that 3. Okay. The first one will be my mother. My father passed away when I was very, very young, and all of us, all right, came up in a very, very hard way. But my mother was a woman of skill. Okay, she was not choosy about any work. Okay, not educated at all. She worked as a laborer. She worked as a seamstress. She goes out she works as a laborer, go to the army there to iron the uniform, came back, sew clothes and all that stuff, just to earn a living for us. So in her, I see the learning that at the end of the day, hard work. There's no shortcut to success, okay? It's a lot of hard work and never give up. No matter how bad things were, all right? She continued to remain positive. She makes sure that there is food on the table for us, okay? And make sure we actually get the basic, okay? So that's one woman. Then the other one is my sister, my elder sister, okay? So of course, living under such conditions, all right? She was very resourceful. My sister was really one resourceful lady. So we wanted a lot of things which we didn't have, okay? So she once was a beauty queen. She was a former Miss Malaysia in 1976. And why did she do that? Okay, so if you go back, her first beauty contest that she entered was just to win rice cooker for us so that we can have a rice cooker. Okay, and when she won the Miss Malaysia, fast for a lot of things, we got a car. Okay, she got a Datsun car, right? So and again, as an eldest, how she does not shirk her responsibility to make sure the siblings and every one of us, I'm the youngest in the family, that again we have our basic needs attended to. And the other mentor I have is none other than my ex-boss, Dato Sri Naziadin. I started out as just a young executive, all right? And I didn't even believe in myself that I am capable of doing a lot of things, to lead the firm and all that, for HR, to build HR in that firm. But he believed in me. He was very visionary. And he launched me when I was ready. He didn't think any lesser of me when I make mistakes. So I could get very comfortable with him. If I make mistakes, I said, oh my God, wrong calculation. We're short of 1 million or 2 million to pay the bonus. How? I thought I'm going to lose the job, right? So this is one person who continues to guide me, who continues to see the goodness in you. All right. No one is perfect. Okay. And he has guided me and turned me into a leader. So whilst my mother and my sister gave me a lot in terms of values, all right, my ex-boss turned me into a leader, something that he instilled this self-confidence in you, which I feel is so important for me to be able to, today I'm able to say I'm going to move on in my life to be more significant. And it's thanks to these three people. Okay, I hope I answered your question.
Dato, we have a lot of questions coming in. We will try to do this as quickly as possible.
Sure.
So,
okay.
The first one from Afiq. Afiq asked you to suggest 3 books to read.
3 books to read. I gave 2 books already.
Yeah. Another
Can
one?
I just add 1 more book?
Sure.
Just one. I'll just add 1 more book. Will be about Who Says Elephants Can't Dance. It's a very, very good book. Okay. So it is about the Louis Gesner on the IBM, and you talk about how they actually integrated and all that. It's a very, very good book. So for HR again, that was one of the books that I would highly recommend. And then, of course, if you want to read about culture and all that, the book by Kaizenbach is actually very good on critical behaviors. Then you will actually understand why behaviors are necessary. How do you actually, we talk about, as I said, values and cultures, people must live it, people must breathe it. So that is a book that actually kinds of like give you the fundamentals and teach you how you can actually turn all these values and culture into life.
Thank
so
you.
This books.
Next one from Mumtaz. Mumtaz asks you the most critical factor we need to educate our kids to prepare them for future.
Prepare them for future. I will say it's humanity. I think, when I was talking to my son, and he just got a job, all right? And he touched me this way. He was saying that, oh dear, there's a possibility that I may lose my job. And he was the last one. And you know the rule? Last in, first out. So he was asking me, what is this? I said, get ready, okay? But you know what? He actually then said something. He said, in his organization, in his company rather, there are actually some others who actually have families to feed and all that. And then he says, I suppose, if really I have to have the cut, I won't be so severely impacted as others, and I thought that was actually a good view on humanity. Yeah. It's not about reaching successful, you must be a CEO of this. I never impose on my children, you must be a doctor, you must be, but no, it's okay. Whatever that you do, as long as you are the best version of yourself with good values and good principles, that's all we want.
That's very important. I couldn't agree more on the humanity part. Yeah. Next one is from Raymond Maiden. He asks you, on reflection, how do you feel HR has changed over the course of your career? What still needs to be done?
Okay, HR has actually gone through a lot of evolution. What is good is that when I first started out in HR, people see HR as just something so administrative, right? It was a case of, you want to know how many days leave? I'll call HR, all right? Can I go, how much claim do I have for medical and all that, HR. But today, HR should evolve to be one as really a strategic partner. HR should be out there in the management team, okay, deciding together with the other leaders in terms of the future of the firm, because HR can assist to make sure that they have the right people, put the right people in, the team dynamics is there, okay? As I said, succession planning, the way you evaluate people, and to ensure that the whole employee experience is positive. Now, when an employee has wonderful experience with the organization, they will come together to actually help you out in anything. So whatever crisis that you have, whatever problems and all that, when you have the employee who has, you know, the heart at the right place, they will be with you. So HR must make sure that they help and the employees to have that soul in them, you know. So it is not definitely not an administrative work, definitely not operational. It is a role that they should be out there wearing the lens of the CEO and putting people first in everything that they do. So that's what I think HR should remain focused on.
The next question, perhaps a follow-up from the earlier one from Kartini. Kartini say COVID-19 has forced businesses to realign, diversify in order to survive. Do you think our businesses are transforming fast enough? And what do you think a must do now for those who are still struggling?
Okay, I think number one is a very broad question. I think some of the businesses have transformed fast. Some no, because I think their hands are tied or whatever. I think they just need to go out there. Sometimes you just have to learn to cut loss as well. So you just need to do quick maths and all that. But having said that, you know, 2020 was something that, yes, was a little bit more ambiguous in that sense, okay? But I think we are beginning to see some light, so there is clarity. Vaccine is coming, right? Of course, but it's still a period of time. So I suppose it is a case of they need to actually assess themselves as to for how long that they can, okay? And then, and if they need to then maybe cut loss, I can't do this business anymore, then they just have to change their business model a bit and all that, you know. And there's lots of help out there that as to how you can actually change your business model, but use technology as well to scale up. You see now a lot, you know, for example, even just food alone, there's so much choices out there, isn't it? Every day you get people pushing to use so many things, right? Whether it's via Facebook or Grab and all that. So I think you just need to actually ride on technology alone. But whatever that you do in terms of business, I think at the end of the day, it's still the product. If your product is good, your business is good, I think people will still come, but you just probably have to weigh out the time and then, you know, analyze your own and define the model well. Okay, so I'm not a business person, but there's just more an angle from me as a consumer. I mean, if the food is good, I will still, for example, you know, love to eat, right? Okay, so if the food is good, we will go all out, right, to do what we can. So I still believe at the end of the day, it's still to do a lot with their product, and then but you have to innovate faster. You have to do it fast, you know, even without COVID and all that stuff. Okay, time is moving so fast, and if you use technology, you can scale up very, very fast as well. So I think something worth strategizing, something worth brainstorming, and of course, some risk element as well. Good luck. Good luck.
Dato, this is the last question.
Okay.
We have a lot of young people following this session today.
Okay.
Dato, you are able to internalize things very well and you express yourself excellently. Apa nasihat Datuk kepada orang-orang muda macam mana nak jadi macam Datuk?
Okay. First of all, thank you. I'm very, very humble. I think at the end of the day, you need to believe in yourself. Trust me, I cannot, you know, when I started out in life, all right, I did not speak a word. It was Datuk Nazir Razak, who forced me out there to talk, to present to the board. So you have to overcome your fears, all right? And you tell yourself, if others can do it, why can't you? Okay? But it is to follow your heart and follow your passion. If you are speaking of something that comes from your heart, then it's not a pressure, I'm just sharing, right? I can share about my book today because I read that book and it's so meaningful to me, all right? Whether it is Success is Significant or or that Chasing Daylight. So I'm just sharing. So it becomes a sharing. Okay. So know what you want. Okay. Follow your path, follow your passion, and share, do your sharing as in tell a story, because when you tell a story and you do a sharing, it's your story.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be someone else. You don't have to try to be someone else. It's your own story, right? So whatever that I shared to do is the book that I have read, the policies that I have implemented, it's the views that I have collected over time. All right, it's my own views. All right, my sharing with the guy who came to send me the pot, the flower pot, and I thought he was a delivery boy, only to know that he is. You know, just when something it's your own story, you see. So when you share your own story coming from the heart, okay, you are you. All right, so be authentic.
Authenticity, Dato. Dato, we have come to the end of today's session. Would you like to offer some parting words, Dato?
Well, my parting words is very easy. I'm going to mention again about health. Invest in health in everything. And health today is a very broad word. There's also this thing about mental health and all that stuff, right? Don't take it lightly. Invest in it now, and stay safe. All right. I think we are seeing some clarity. We will still need some time, but we need to stay humble and patience. You just have to be patient, do our part. This is a crisis. It's not, as I said, not for one person. It's not an individual thing. It's not that you are having your flu and your cough and that's it. No, it affects the whole community. We have our responsibility, right? So do your part, stay safe. And I am sure that 2021 will be better. Maybe not the first half, maybe towards the second half, but it is a year of hope. So, and it is on this note that I wish you all the very best. Stay fit, stay healthy all the time. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you so much, Dato' Hamidah, for spending time with us today. On behalf of RSOG, kami semua mendoakan Dato' sihat selalu.
Thank you.
We also thank the participant for taking part. We value your views and feedback. We noticed that there are other questions that we had the opportunity to read it today. We apologize for any shortcomings. Please follow us on social media for future sessions. Till we meet again, please take care and stay safe. Thank you. Assalamualaikum. Sampai jumpa lagi, Dato' Hamidah. Terima kasih banyak-banyak.
Thank you. Bye.